Coming up in episode 49, a conversation about road trips.
Most of my music I listen through Spotify and Pandora.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting data, if you're not in an area where you're getting good service, you can't stream music. Welcome to another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan Alanis and Angelica Casares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. Just a reminder that you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittleradioshow.com. The Little Radio Show is brought to you in partnership with juanofwords.com and hispanichouston.com.
As some of you might or might not know, I'm going to tell you anyway. Recently, we've been taking a lot of road trips, and I myself have actually thought about, what makes a really good road trip, the kind of stuff that you bring, you don't bring, what you leave behind, and what you absolutely forgot, and you thought to myself, dang it. But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think is essential for a road trip? And what do you think you could have left behind that kind of like in your luggage is just dragging, right? Like that stuff, that extra stuff that you just kind of like bring?
Well, regardless of the trip, I always pack too much clothes, but when you're going on a road trip and you don't have to pay extra for extra items checked, I am so bad about
bringing more.
Sure. Oh my goodness. It's like I'm going to a third world country that they don't have soap or shampoo or shoes or
I'm guilty
anything.
of that too. You know what I did? I my heels, they weren't as good quality as I wanted them to stay when I had bought them a couple of years ago. So I threw them away at the hotel in Vegas because I was like, I'm not dragging them back. They're holding down I can't put more stuff in my suitcase.
But we just got back from a road trip and it was like 4 days of a road trip or 5 days. And I think we packed like we were going for like 2 weeks or something.
Yes.
We packed so much clothes and like I was like, I need 3 shorts and I need 3 pairs of jeans. And
Sandra, do you do that even like where it's like, say it's 5 hours away? You pack too much stuff?
Oh my goodness. My sister lives in Pasadena, which is just another suburb in Houston. It's a 25-minute drive from where I live. 25-minute drive from where I live. And if I go to spend like the evening and I pack for the night, because there's going to be whatever, and so I'm going to spend tonight and I'm closed for tomorrow, somehow I end up with 3 outfits in the bag. I don't understand it. I'm like, it's
you
like
need options.
Maybe this.
And it's like, and then I take my brush and all this other stuff. Like, she doesn't have toothpaste at her house. I mean, seriously, what am I thinking? And that's not even a real road trip.
All right, maybe that's not us. Maybe that's not us. But when I pack differently and I think I've had this conversation before with you, Sandra, where I pack differently, as opposed to an hour away, 3 hours away. And this time our road trip was 20 hours away. And I had to I'm getting better at this.
Yes.
I'm getting really, really good because we've had trips in the past, and we went to Miami a couple of months ago, and we did this last one to Vegas. And I've just gotten better, at what I absolutely know I need. And one of the things that I thought that I did was different.
We downgraded an entire luggage.
Good. That's wonderful.
One whole suitcase.
Yeah.
It's the small one, but I mean, still, right? One whole suitcase. But one of the things that I did different was I brought a container, a plastic container, brand new. It must be brand new. I bought it with the cap, with the lid that was a little bit bigger, extended up a little bit. So whatever would fit. That actually held well, and it did good. And I was able to
instead of
maneuver
suitcase.
a lot. No. As opposed to how you bring extra snacks and stuff like that.
Okay, yes.
And we put ice in there, and then we had
It served as an ice cooler.
Okay.
You just put a small a towel below it, so when it sweats, it doesn't drip on the seat. But on our way there, it wasn't so hot, so I didn't need to put ice in it. But it contained all the snacks. When the snacks things fall out of the bag, what fell out into the container. Okay. So it wasn't all over the stuff, and it kept everything nice and neat. And I was like, all right, so this is I'm integrating stuff. I'm bringing stuff in.
But one of the essentials, I think, is for road trips, if you're traveling with kids, is you want to have electronics and you want to have chargers.
Games.
Get plenty of chargers for everybody.
Plenty of chargers, yes.
Because as everybody was when we were on this 20-hour trip, everybody was like,
I think we lost one of the chargers.
And so everybody wanted to use the charger at the same time. And it was kind of a struggle. So we had plenty of chargers so everybody could connect and charge their devices. And that just made it so much easier because it was nobody was, everybody was doing their own thing. You kind of relax when you're doing that. And, and then also when you're driving and you get the scenery, that's you get really good, just in general, it's a really good environment, and it's like really, I like road trips just because of that, because of the landscape. That's my biggest thing. Like, I like the landscape.
Yeah.
And then if you have the chargers and everything, you're able to like, not when you're driving, but like you're able to get people to like record stuff for you, take pictures on the road, and this and that.
So on the topic though of electronics, I'm going to go one further and say you need to have the right data plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I understand that that's a first world comment, seriously. But last year, my family, we did a trip to Dallas, which is fine, except my nephew, all he wants to do is stream YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is it. And you can't stream YouTube videos. That is a data-intensive thing. So, basically, we rotated everybody's cell phone, mobile phones until, like, so that not one person was taking on all the brunt of the data. And I just let him use mine because I have an unlimited data plan. But if you don't, because data is expensive.
And not to mention the areas where you go, like we were driving through a lot of mountains, so like you couldn't get internet. You lost the internet, so it was just
you lost cell phone service, so you couldn't even call out.
Yeah, so satellite radio was a huge saver because we could get that all along the way. So like when the radio ran out, when the internet ran out, we still had music to play.
So one of the things that I did was I actually rented movies on my device. I rented a couple of movies, and then I watched them on the way there.
And then I rented a couple too.
Yeah, and I rented a couple on the way back, and that kind of like for my sanity, I think that worked well because I could like it wasn't. So when everybody's doing the same thing and everybody's getting frustrated, it becomes very stressful. And so if one of the persons inside the car or two of the people are kind of distracted by other things, and you're reading a book or you're doing something, what happens is it helps the others. So the others, so the mind frame and the mindset, everybody's not like, oh, we've been in the car for 8 hours, we need to get the hell out, that kind of mentality, like, because that happens.
And you kind of have to schedule your biological clocks.
So
then you're like kind of all
biological clocks,
so you're all making kind of
bio breaks,
same pit stops
yes.
at the same time, and then you try not to drink as much, you try not to drink so much water, you try not to
I was horrible at that.
Okay, so what kind of road tripper are you? Are you the, oh my God, we're behind schedule, we're taking too long, let's not do another stop, get there person? Or are you the, oh, look, pretty, let me stop and take a look?
I frustrate people because I love doing stops. Like, first of all, I make an excuse that I have to pee.
Mine's never an excuse.
No, but I think that's the bad part about us, is that we're both like, oh, look, let's make a detour there.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
ooh,
let's go there.
Pretty mountain, let's drive that way. It's like, of course.
And then 3 hours later, we're like, how long is it? I was like, how is it still 5 hours?
You don't have a small child.
No.
I mean, how old is the boy?
13.
Wow, no, not at all.
No, not at all.
My nephew is 9, and so taking a road trip with him means he must be entertained every moment on the way there. He has the attention span of a gnat, and so he's not going to sit there and do nothing. He's going to get frustrated, he's going to get tired, he's going to start to get cranky.
With boy, there wasn't data plans when he was younger, so we couldn't like a stream like YouTube. It wasn't available when he was,
DVDs.
Even, oh my God, saying that now, even when he was 8, 9 years old, that wasn't available because it wasn't available. So what I used to have was an actual DVD player that had the attachment screen. So where he can run movies on it. And I actually had a portable, small little file of a couple of DVDs that there were some that he was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And he would watch that on a constant. So a couple of trips down to Dallas, and that's what we would constantly do. It's like, all right, here you go. We're 30 minutes outside of Houston. And he's like, the chair itches and I want to take out my seatbelt. And I was like, no, okay, here you go, kid. And a brand new movie too. You remember that? Yeah.
So I am old enough that I remember taking road trips, and I borrowed from the library audiobooks. And audiobooks literally meant 13 or 14 different CDs or CDs of someone reading a book for about 14 hours.
Okay, but it depends who is reading it. Yes. Like if you like the sound of the voice, because I actually,
oh my goodness,
I quote unquote read The Fault in Our Stars down to our trip to Miami because I rented. I actually bought the audiobook for The Fault in Our Stars.
Yes.
And that's the only reason.
But
Because
what's
otherwise
funny
I
is,
wouldn't
like,
have read the book.
What I do is I put on, I've been putting on podcasts.
So
and,
that's
like,
what I
there are
do
podcasts
now.
that I like listening to, and then I'll put
He
like,
likes-
like when it's late at night and I'm getting sleepy, like I'll put stuff on that'll make me that like it's thought provoking. So I'll like put it on because
So-
it gets my brain going, and I like put it on and I have it in the car. And what's funny is like the last trip to Miami, her niece was with us, and her niece was like, "Hey, put on that show again."
The
And then
NPR.
this one on the way back, Edgar was like, "Hey, can we listen to that show again?" And so I'm like,
It's
I'm like-
educational
I'm-
at this point.
I'm creating like podcast fans left and right on my
Well,
road
that's
trips.
good. Now we just need them to be our fans.
Yes.
But the benefit that podcasts have is that they download and they're physically on your device. So it doesn't matter if you have
Yeah,
data
yeah.
or not.
Right.
Like if the cell phone usage or, it's spotty, you can still use it.
Right.
I don't buy music anymore. And so the reality is I don't buy music, and I've got a few CDs in my car, but they're old at this point.
Yeah.
Most of my music I listen through Spotify and Pandora.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting data, if you're not in an area where you're getting good service, you can't stream music.
Well, that's what I was saying. The satellite thing was such a saver for us because like they were like going through the mountains. There were so many places that we just didn't have signal, and like we had satellite, and so that was like it was very
That worked
it was
out.
very
So
convenient.
do you use Spotify at all?
My nephew had Spotify, so he had it on the like, parts of the trip.
One of the things that Spotify does, even with the free account, is when you add them to, like, this is my favorites, to your favorites, it'll give you the option to download a copy of it to your device.
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
nice.
So even when you're offline, you can still listen to it.
So a
that's
quick
cool.
question. So going back to the absolute essentials, I'm gonna quickly talk about like
Sure.
what I actually bring on a road trip that I
Okay.
think is absolutely essential. So one of the things that we do, I make sure that our luggage is hard case because we drag it around a lot and we like bump it into things a
Okay.
lot. Zippers don't break and so on and so forth. And another thing, the container, obviously, and I try to buy snacks before we leave.
Snacks and drinks.
Snacks and drinks before we leave because if you buy them on the road, they're like $1 or $2 more expensive.
Yes.
So it can get very like it digs into your pocket. Another thing
A
that
garbage
I do,
bag.
bags general. So it's Ziploc bags, small like sometimes they're like vegetable bags that come in like a container that's quickly to put like anything that smells. You put it in, you tie it, and you put it like over to the side because it's nothing's worse than like a stinky road trip, right? Another thing that I do is I bought like an extra duffel bag for just in case, one that zips up and compacts like really quickly. That's for stuff that you buy, that you bring, or dirty clothes. You do have leftover space. And then another thing is a couple of pillows. So even those round pillows that you take on the airplane, I bring like one, at least two. Because a couple of people, usually it's like 2 out of the 4 people that will be falling asleep, and a couple of covers because it does get cold. And then I have that thing, that beach, like that wrap that I put, that you can put around yourself. I use that to like block sunlight to come in for, whoever like is in need of it or something. Because it can get hot, and this road trip was hot, and I was like, yes. And you're like, this is one that you got you got one this for the books. And another thing is actual first aid kit. And I tell this to everybody, bring an actual first aid kit. Make sure it includes something to take like your blood pressure. Bring something just in case to like the blood, to monitor blood. You never know. Things like, Benadryl, things for asthma, things that, because these are long road trips. So say and this can happen, and it's happened to anybody. And it's happened to us in the past where you're on a road trip and all of a sudden you're like pulling off to the side because you see something cool, but you don't know like the landscape of it. And so sharp edges, things that you didn't know, burns happen and things like that. And you can pull out your first aid quickly instead of like, oh my God, he's not okay. And you're running through that mentality. It's like, no, okay, you're fine. We have some ice in here. I have the ice compress thing right here. Put some ice. We'll sit on it and we'll go on. And I've been able to fit everything that I absolutely need in like a small, like a little bit larger than a shoebox, one of those plastic shoebox containers.
Okay.
I've been able to do that. And a lot of people don't know that. And so what happens is, your kid is gushing from the blood and is like freaking out and you don't know what to put. And you're like, put a bunch of like, toilet paper too. So you put a bunch of like napkins and you know what I mean? It's like, hold on. Well, we should probably, this area should probably be, the boy freaks out because I always like pour a bunch of alcohol
Oh,
like all over their
that hurts. That hurts to think about.
I do. But that's one of the first things you want to do is you want to clean up, and then you want a Band-Aid, and you move on so you don't have to worry about it. But first aid kit, people, when you're on a road trip, take the first, and not the ones that fit in your pocketbook. Get an actual first aid kit, for somebody for fevers. Make sure you can take their temperature, their blood pressure, and so on and so forth. Because when you're crossing across, elements, everybody reacts to these elements differently, whether that's heat, whether it's cold, whether, trees that we have in Texas are not trees that you have in Florida. And guess what happened to me? I had a reaction to this pollen in Florida that wasn't happening in Texas.
Yes. We go to Hispanicize every year, and I have learned to just pack all of my allergy medication when I go to Florida.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 or 3 days, I am miserable in Miami. And not because of Miami. Miami is lovely. But the pollen or the allergens in Miami are trying to kill me every year.
Yeah,
and the thing is, when you're
true.
going into new terrain and you don't know, you've never been down that path, like there can be long stretches of road where you don't have like a gas station, you don't have a store, or there's nothing nearby. So one of the things that we were doing on this road trip is that we were filling up every time we saw a gas station, we were filling up.
I think this is Juan's OCD though.
Because we didn't want to there were stretches where there were like 100 miles between the next gas station, and so you didn't want to risk running out of gas and or not knowing where the next gas station was. So we were trying to fill up pretty regularly, and I think that's a good tip.
Make sure the vehicle is big enough for everybody to fit comfortably. And another thing that because at this point I think I'm an expert at this point. I also bought like a gallon of water just in case. You never know, the car overheats or somebody needs it immediately. You know what I mean? Like maybe we went outside and one of them had heat exhaustion or something. And so I've learned like when you run across elements and when you run across states, every state is going to be different, and you're never prepared for that. So your tennis shoes, your chanclas, literally your tennis shoes, your chanclas, jeans, always pack a pair of jeans, always, and always pack a pair of shorts. I try to make sure all our traveling time is 10 hours, a 10-hour driving period. So I prefer that he drives in, 3 to 4 hour time spans. So make sure we stop. Maybe he notices at this point, but I make sure he stops and we actually eat at a restaurant. So I'm like keeping track of where our stops are, and I'm like, okay, Fort, whatever is coming up, and it's about 30 minutes away. Do you want to eat there, or do you want to wait the extra hour because we need to stop? We're gonna have to stop, and I prefer it's in the span of 4 hours. And then we stop for about, an hour. And then, I get goofy sometimes. I'm like, all right, guys, we need to get up. We need to get out, or we need to get off the car. We need to shake it off. And let's there's a museum coming up. Yeah, let's do it. And then sometimes it's so boring, right, Juan? I always pick the randomest things. But for him, I try to take a nap when everybody else is awake. So like that, when he's still driving, I can wake up and I can keep him busy. So our conversations can be in depth about something, anything, to where he's interested in the conversation.
For me, that's a big help. It's like, when I'm getting sleepy, like I need my drinks, but I also need talk to me, talk to me, keep me talking so that I'm not falling asleep. Because, when the cool air is hitting you and it's dark outside, there's only an empty road in front of you. You start doing that little head tilt where your eyes are closing.
And then when we stop to sleep at some places, I make sure it's comfortable and it's nice. And it's nice for all of us. So I don't want to, all in all, I think we're getting better at it. Eventually, I think maybe within the year, because we have a few more planned, we'll be experts.
And I think the last tip that I'll say is just as a driver, you have to be aware of your surroundings, and everybody and the passengers in the car should also be aware of the surroundings and kind of keep an eye out, because it's a lot. If you're on road trips, a lot of people are on the same road with you. They're sharing the road, and some people are sleepy, some people are not taking the same precautions, and so it's easy for people to veer off, and accidents happen, and you see them all the time when you're driving up and down the freeways. You see sometimes a car rolled over or something that it's just, you don't know what happened, but it's you have to be aware. You have to keep your eyes open.
Sometimes I think I obsess over the road as much as you do when you drive, because I'm always looking at the cars in front of me. So I always see that car that's swerving off. It's like, Juan,
5 miles away, car. And watch out.
Yeah, I am that person. Stay back. And he's like, Angelica, I'm that close. I know, but what if he slams on the brake? So I'm that backseat driver. Yes, I am.
So let's talk a little bit about Favorite road trips. Okay. My sister and my brother and I, a long time ago, but we did this really great road trip once before GPS was so common. Literally, we were using a key map. One of those
to get to places.
Yeah.
Yes, to get to places, and it was a 2-week road trip. The only thing that we knew was that we were going to go to Florida, and we started out saying, okay, well, we're going to go look at lighthouses in Florida. That was our plan. And we made it to Florida. We never saw a single lighthouse. But we stopped at New Orleans, and while we were for the night, and while we were in New Orleans, we decided where we're gonna spend the night tomorrow night, and we called until we found, based upon a book, like a travel guide, until we found a hotel that we were good with, and then we booked the hotel. The next day we drove to that place, and I want to say it was Fort Lauderdale or somewhere. And then we stayed there, and then we go, okay, well, let's do Key West next. So for 2 weeks, for 2 weeks, it was just a road trip,
That's fun.
It was so
a
much
good
fun.
down road trip.
It was so much fun. My family, we do road trips all the time, and not like this unstructured road trips, but we do to San Antonio and to Dallas, and we'll drive to Detroit, or we'll go to Atlanta because I used to live there and we've got family in Detroit, that kind of stuff. Most people, road trips are because they have work or because they're going to go visit family. And every once in a while you get a thing where you're just going for fun, and I like the for fun ones. In Texas, there's this whole list of places I want to go see that is I want to go see the Marfa lights.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we passed by, and I regretted it because we were coming down from El Paso down this way, and I was like, where's Marfa? And it was 30 minutes behind. I mean, that would have been a 2-hour detour, but I was like, no. But I do want to go see the Marfa. I want to go to Marfa, Texas. I want to see some of their art installations. I want to go see that stuff. Maybe we should do another road trip, Sandra.
Well, I want to go see the Marfa lights. I want to go see the oh Lord, no, I'm not going to remember what this thing is called. The Stonehenge.
The Stonehenge.
I want to go see Stonehenge. There's a Stonehenge replica. Somebody built a replica. You know what Stonehenge is?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Somebody built
wait,
replica
that's in
of Stonehenge in Texas.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, it's
where?
I don't remember, but if you look it up, there are lots and lots of photographs, and it's not small. I mean, it may not be to size as in England, but it's not small, and there's plenty of photos posted online. It's this little town, and somebody built Stonehenge.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
And there's all sorts of that kind of stuff in Texas that you never have to leave Texas. I love to travel. Wineries, and there's there's a drive-through, a safari zoo, not too far outside of Houston.
San Antonio.
We've been there,
and
it's when Juan got attacked by the zebra. We got pictures.
You got attacked
by
the zebra. Anyway,
oopsie, am I laughing? My laugh is so horrible.
What makes a road trip great for you?
What makes when we are all comfortable enough as possible makes a really good road trip. It's not so much the destination. It's really a lot. And no, I'm going to take that back because sometimes it is. It's not so much, about, because sometimes we do it for work. So it's not so much about where we have to be. I think it's more about how comfortable and what we're doing up till. That makes a really good road trip. For me, at least.
For me, it's about having fun. If you can have fun on the road trip, and you're not so worried about how fast you have to be somewhere, or how soon you have to be, and you're willing, and the people in the car kind of have the same attitude, and they're like, yeah, let's go, let's venture off and take this little detour and go there. That's fun to me. Just being able to venture off and do those things. And I think for me, probably my favorite road trip was probably this one, because it was all the whole landscape. Once we were past San Antonio,
new to us. It was new to us,
brand new, and it was a part of the country that I've been wanting to drive through, and it was just the landscape was beautiful. I love all the Native American culture that was around us when we were driving through New Mexico and Arizona, and so for me, this was probably my favorite road trip, just because it was and the boy's old enough now that he really gets to enjoy it with us. So before he was younger, and I think now he really gets to appreciate it a lot more. So I think for me, this was my favorite.
Yeah. For me, I want to do a road trip up to Midland, Texas, in that direction where it's the less, the kind of country that's not really well traveled. by a lot of people. I want to do something like that. Do I think this was the best one? I think we can have better.
Yeah.
You know which one I absolutely loved? And I was like, oh my God, this is life. Was the road trip we did down to Washington, D.C., to Maryland.
Yeah, I like that
to
one.
visit your sister.
Next on my list are California and then Wisconsin. I want to drive all the way up to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I want to make it up to
Wisconsin?
Canada.
I just want to see that part of the country.
Okay.
But the one to DC, Maryland. You see those calendars where it's like that big what is that? That pillar? What is it?
The Washington Monument?
No.
It's the ones they have in the farms. I don't know what.
With the farms and they hold like the wheat in there.
The grain silos.
Yes,
Yeah.
the silos. So it's very picturesque, just like that, like the barn and the silos, and it's like that hill, that greenery hill that goes up, that pasture. I mean, it looked like Little House on the Prairie. Like it was beautiful. That one I absolutely
What was your favorite
loved.
road trip, Sandra?
Well, my favorite road trip was Florida.
Was that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than Florida, though, I'm not going to call it my favorite. It was one of my more memorable road trips. Was a few years ago, and my family, my grandmother passed away. She was in Detroit, and because of budget issues, I had siblings who weren't going to be able to fly up to see her as she was ailing. So we did a road trip, and it was two of my siblings, one of my in-laws, one of my siblings-in-law, and my mom in a car driving up to Detroit in the middle of the night, quite honestly. We were punch drunk by the time we got there. We were exhausted. We kept stopping at these out-of-the-way places, and my sister, who is the biggest health nut that you ever saw, always managed to find fresh fruit at these gas station convenience stores. How she managed to find not just bananas at every store that we stopped at, but fresh bananas, I am never going to figure that out. By the time we got back from the trip, I realized that in the car there were stashed in different places 8 different bags of half-eaten Skittles, were all mine, and all sorts of other stuff. Like I had been eating Slim Jims the whole way there, and I kept stuffing the little open stuff in the weirdest places, and it was. And, this is the longest amount of confined time that these particular siblings and I have had together.
Since y'all lived together?
Well, in a decade at least. And it was not a happy occasion, but it was really, really memorable. And it's one of those things where it was bittersweet, honestly. But the road trip itself, it was, we made a detour to St. Louis to eat at this barbecue restaurant in St. Louis that we all wanted to try out, and it was like a 2-hour detour
away,
plus the stop. And my mom kept trying to get us to stop at Graceland, and we wouldn't let her because then we were never going to make it to Detroit. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
Family is so peculiar.
Well, I can relate because the last 2 trips that my siblings and I and my parents made together to Mexico were as adults. We were all adults, and we all went together, and it was for funerals, and they were very memorable trips
on a different level.
But the experience of going with your adult siblings is just nice.
Okay, so when he went with his adult siblings, there was actually no partners, so the partners didn't go to this, and so it was just like brothers and sisters.
When you were younger and you traveled that way, and now you're all adults and you all have your own lives, so you don't really do it as much. And so when you get to do it, it's fun just to reconnect.
So on that note, I am going to invite all of our listeners to let us know what they consider a good road trip. If they have a really great memory or really bad memory from a road trip, and what they consider essential to be for a road trip. Have safe travels. And in the shameless self-promotion part of this show, I have a question for you. Will you take a moment and let us know if you enjoy the podcast? What do you like about it? What are we doing well, and what can we improve? Please send us a comment on Facebook or Twitter and tag us. We always appreciate feedback from our listeners. You can find links to all of our social channels on thelittleradioshow.com. Most new listeners of this show found out about it through a friend or a blog post. If you're someone who has told someone else about The Little Radio Show, thank you so much. Really,
It means a lot to us. Keep telling your friends, and if you happen to write something about the show, send us a link or tag us somehow so we can share it.